Welcome to Can I Park Here? Brought to you by FindAFashionTruck.com. Nashay and Estrell's mission is to inspire future and existing small business owners. They don't claim to be experts. They're simply trying to figure this all out, just like you.
Welcome to another episode of the Can I Park Here podcast, brought to you by StartAFashionTruck.com. My name is Nashay, and I'm here with
Estrell.
So today we have a different kind of mobile boutique. It is a home decor mobile boutique, which Estrell, I know, is really excited to talk about.
Yeah, I had to pick their brains a little bit to find out how they did certain things. Because this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, and their trick is pretty cool. And I like hearing their story about how, they had actually a different name in the beginning, and then they tested it with friends and realized that they needed to change it. And then they changed the style of even like the boutique, because in the beginning they had a different name and a different concept for as far as like the wrap. And I love, like, that's just kind of like proof of like, you have to validate, or is that the word I'm looking for? You have to what's the word I'm looking for?
Test it out. Test the waters.
Yeah. So you have to make sure that what you're doing makes sense before you fully commit. So I think that was really smart of them, and any good business should do that. But they talk about just a lot of things that as new business owners, you need to remember or do as you start out and kind of start to implement your plan.
Yeah. So this is almost one of my favorites because clearly you guys know why. So stay tuned and find out more about them. Indigo Home. Here we go.
Hey guys, today on the Can I Park Here podcast, we have Jennifer and Mike. Hi, Jennifer and Mike. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about you and a little bit about your background?
Sure. I guess I'll start. I have a really random background. My first degree is in theater and music, and that is when I kind of really got the bug for design, because it really, for me, started on stage. But I also just had a really good time, decorating my dorm rooms, and then when I moved off campus and things like that. So that's kind of where I initially got the design, the interior design / home decor bug. That's where I originally got it. But then my second degree is in dietetics. So I kind of apples and porcupines, they have nothing to do with each other. But yeah, that's me.
How about you, Mike?
Well, my background is in sales and also the banking industry. I honestly have a desire for real estate, I guess. I tried to go into the real estate industry, being a mortgage loan originator and also a real estate agent. That didn't really work out so well. So I was in the lending industry, worked for a subprime mortgage company back in 2006 before the economy went under as far as that industry goes. And then I just had various, banking jobs since then, sales jobs. And right now I'm in the telecom industry, and my degree is in computer programming. So not really using that much, but yeah. And whenever Jen came up with this idea, I thought it was a great idea because nobody else was doing it, and we just figured we'd run with it.
So how did you end up deciding, you know what, we are going to open a mobile boutique?
Man, it's kind of funny, I guess. I had worked in retail in high school and college and things like that, but never were I'm going to make it my career. And when I just remember being out to brunch with a couple of girlfriends and seeing a fashion truck that was around, and I'm not really a girl that likes to shop for clothes. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, let's go in, whatever. And then we went in and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. So somebody's doing this for home decor, right? And then we started to do like a little bit of research, and we definitely found out that we are the only ones in our, our area kind of doing that. And so I was like, this is kind of a crazy idea. And I kind of ran it by by Mike, obviously. And he, he's always had an entrepreneurial drive. And so when I kind of told him about it, he's like, I think that's super cool. Maybe we should figure out a way to try and make it happen. And I, started talking about the idea to a couple of close girlfriends who are also business owners as well. And they're like, yeah, go for it. There's nothing like that around here. So, and then, so then we just kind of started putting the puzzle pieces together and kind of learning as we went, for sure. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started.
First of all, I have to say the truck is amazeballs. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you guys are doing exactly what I want to do. I am an interior designer, and I've been wanting to open up a mobile boutique for home decor for a long time. Yes. And recently I've been kind of going back and forth about doing the mobile boutique or trying to get a brick and mortar store. But it's both of them are still like, it's a big decision to make. Either way you go. And then so how did you guys decide what to carry inside of the mobile boutique? Because home decor, it ranges a lot of things. So,
oh man, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So how did you decide what you wanted to carry?
We decided first and foremost to only carry small quantities. I think that was a big thing, because that, for us being in such a small space, it would allow us to move in different styles pretty frequently. So for me, I'm the one that primarily chooses the merchandise. And I really do my best to take my personal style out of it and say, okay, you know what? My kitchen's not green, but maybe somebody else's is. And this is really cool. And I haven't seen something like this. So let me just try it out. And because we order in small quantities and things like that, we typically don't tend to sit on things very long. So that kind of gives us that ability to move with the styles, but also cater to many different styles. Does that make sense?
So how receptive are people to your type of mobile boutique?
Super receptive.
We get a lot of good feedback. Almost like every single event we go to, we'll have numerous people come on the truck and just look at it and just be in awe of what we were able to do. And it's a good feeling to hear that.
Now, maybe let's backtrack a little bit. I know I got carried away about looking at the truck. So let's just backtrack to how did you guys go about finding the truck? Like, where did you get it? And then
we were actually just discussing this before you guys. we were just discussing this before you guys called. That was probably the hardest part of this whole process. We scoured Craigslist almost daily. Whenever we decided to make the commitment to, go all in on this, we started looking for step vans on Craigslist. We were looking at numerous websites, some in Chicago, some in Ohio, actually some in Arkansas too. And, it was just by chance that we found one that was actually local, not too far away from us, that was actually being offered for a decent price. But I mean, as far as finding the truck, that was probably the hardest, just because it was like a daily thing that we would do. Did you check Craigslist? Did you check this website?
Truck paper,
all the websites that are listed on the AMRA website. We would get on those every single day just to find something that was possibly in our budget. But, I wouldn't say it's a lot of luck, but there's definitely some luck that plays into that, because when we found the truck that we ended up buying, it was pretty close. We didn't have to travel out of state or anything like that. And before we decided on that truck, I would say we probably looked at about 6 others before we decided on this one. So,
yeah. There's a lot of things to consider when you're buying your truck that I never thought that we would come up against. So you have to plan for things like we saw this truck on Craigslist that on paper and in the pictures was pristine. Like the guy was wanting to turn it into a food truck and wasn't able to or what have you. And so we traveled on Easter Sunday to go meet this guy of all days. So we're like up with the birds and we're like driving 2 hours to go meet this guy. And we're like, we had a cashier's check in hand. Like we were so sure. I promise you, like we were so sure that this was our truck. And we get there and Mike is 6'4" and I'm 5'8". So we're not tiny people. And when we got there, we step up into the truck and it was a 6-foot ceiling. So Mike was ducking. I felt like the walls were closing in on me and I had like a couple of inches of, headspace, but that was something that we never thought about. Because all of the other trucks that we looked at they had 7-foot ceilings. And so it really wasn't an issue. We didn't even think that would ever come into play. And so we were like, okay, well, thanks. You have a great truck, but unfortunately this is not going to work for us. But it was, it was things like that we, we weren't planning on having to consider.
That's interesting. I just would have assumed that all of the step vans would have the same height.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we thought
Not
too.
True.
I mean, you'll find you could look at 5 different step vans and they'll have different height of ceilings, and it's crazy because some of the ones we looked at, like there's a local uniform supply company here in St. Louis, and they travel around. They'll do welcome mats and things like that, and they'll pick up all the mats and go clean them and then return them to whatever office building they picked them up at. And that was one of the first trucks that we looked at, and those things are huge. And then you go and look at like the truck Jen was just describing, and you step in it and you're like, oh wow, I thought all these were the same. So yeah, and we looked at a wide variety. I mean, ones from like 1970 all the way up to like the one that we bought. So
yeah, which is a 96,
99. Yeah.
And so what time frame was this around, just to give people just like a concept of like when you guys started and then how long it took you all to actually kind of get on the road?
Sure. So from inception of the idea, that was August of 2015. And we opened June 18th of this year. So, it was a lot of planning for sure. And then we actually bought our truck on April Fool's Day. I even put on our Instagram, I was like, this is not a joke. It's actually happening. Here's our big hunk of metal that we're going to turn into Indigo Home. And, but yeah, so yeah. That's that.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people kind of want to get where you guys are. So I'm just curious, like, what does that planning look like? Because some people, I think in their heads, they're like, oh, I have to have X amount of money, or I have to have this. And then that prevents them maybe from like just going ahead and starting. So for you guys, like, what did that planning look like? And how are you all able to accomplish this in less than a year? Which is pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, we tried to write a business plan, which I guess we're kind of still in the middle of doing that. I would say we had a projection of things that we needed and what we wanted to spend on those things. Like, say, for instance, the truck and the generator and the inventory and all of the paperwork that goes along with
licensing and insurance.
Yeah, with opening a business, all the licensing, basically all the red tape that you have to deal with within the state that you reside. But we came up with a list of those things. Maybe it was a list of like 9 or 10 things with, a dollar amount next to them. And we said to each other, okay, well, let's try to stay within these parameters on each item. And some things we were able to, some things we weren't. It's just one of those things where you don't know how much you're going to spend on, say, a generator or your truck. Mm-hmm. But, you kind of got to sit down and just look at those things and just say, okay, so our truck, let's say we'll spend $5,000 on it. And then with all the other options that are all the other items that you write down, you kind of have to, like I said, stay in those parameters. But we were able to. I mean, it seems like we were able to, we were like right on the edge. But I mean,
we went right up. Well, so let me backtrack a little bit on that, because I will say that I think our business plan helped us a lot with getting organized, because you can talk about ideas all day, but if you don't know how to put those into motion, then you're kind of, you're in a different spot, and you're not really gonna, you can kind of flail around a little bit, I think. So I feel like our business plan was helpful. Did we stick to it completely? No, because there are things when you're planning your business that come up that you don't plan for. In our case, it was mechanical work on the truck. That was, something that we had to kind of figure out how to, within our budget, kind of like rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. So like you know what I mean? Like you take, okay, so this is what we budgeted for our generator. Well, maybe we don't get like the top of the line generator right now, because then we can take a little bit of that money and then put that into the mechanics of our truck, which is going to last longer. Mm-hmm. Different things like that. So that's what I kind of mean about robbing Peter to pay Paul. But I do feel like our business plan helped us to get organized and gave us a little bit of a roadmap. Like, okay, here's where we're starting and here's where we want to be. Now, these are all the steps in between that we need to hit. Now, did we hit them in the specific order that we wrote them out? Oh my gosh, no. Yeah. But it, it did help lay the groundwork. Yeah,
it definitely helped lay the groundwork as far as, trying to wrap our arms around this whole process, really.
Especially because it is such a new industry. At least in St. Louis, like we have a huge food truck culture, but there's only a handful of us doing mobile retail. So a lot of places don't really know what to do with us. They're like, hey, that's cool, but we have no legislation on how to manage you within the municipalities.
Now, let me ask you a question, because we were, of course, stalking you guys on social media.
Thanks.
I remember seeing on Facebook, like, I think like in the beginning, when you first started, there was like this mock-up of the truck and it said like pillow and plaster, but now you guys are Indigo Home. Uh-huh. So was that your initial concept and then your initial name? And then at some point you decided to like switch?
Yes. Okay. So when you're dreaming up like, oh, this is what my fairy tale mobile boutique is going to be like. And, you're like, what are we going to call it? And like, you're just like racking your brain for, what you want to name your business. And I came up with pillow and plaster. I thought it had a nice flow to it. I thought it had a nice ring to it. It looked really cute when it was written out, all the important things. And then once we kind of like took our idea outside of the inner circle, people thought we were a drywall company. So we're like, got to change that. Yeah. So Indigo Home is actually inspired by my grandma. She and I were super, super close, and she's been gone for 12 years now. But I feel like she's with me every day. She was a painter, and her favorite color was indigo. And as I was trying to rack my brain, trying to think of what we could call the truck, instead of pillow and plaster, obviously not a drywall company, Indigo Home kind of came about. And I was like, okay, I think that's it. And then I just kind of had some like other, interesting things kind of happen that just really kind of made me feel like my grandma was with me a little bit in this process. So not to sound like kind of hippy dippy or whatever, but that's really kind of where Indigo Home came from. And I also just kind of think that it resonates. Like, it's a color. It is a very specific color. It carries a lot of emotion in the color, I feel. I know that for me personally, but it also, the color itself makes a statement. And that's what we're trying to do with our little truck.
And you know what's weird though? I know this is like totally random, but indigo, like that color is like, for some reason, people love that color.
Yeah.
Like even with my wall hangings, I swear that the indigo stuff that I sell are my top sellers. And really? I don't know why. Yes, I'm like, I have so many other pretty colors. Why do you guys keep buying this?
I don't know. Maybe it goes back to like, it's very like, it's kind of regal, it's kind of like along those like deep purples, which were, historically for royalty. And, it's kind of, in that same realm. So I feel like it like the color indigo makes you feel something, you feel a certain way when you see that color, like it provokes emotion, or I don't know why people gravitate towards it, but my grandma sure did. And I really like the name.
Now, for the inside of your truck, so since you're dealing with now, furniture or just home decor items versus, clothing, like how did you decide to like kind of decorate the inside? Because instead of like the normal racks, instead, I'm assuming you need shelving, but then you also have to think about when the truck is moving, like how do you store that stuff? And, how did that all play out?
Oh man. For sure, the first thing on my mind was like, we're going to have a lot of breakable stuff. How are we going to do this? So for us, we had to figure out first how we were going to carry inventory. And then we also had to figure out how to do it in a way that had not flair, but style. So I really wanted to, initially, I wanted to make it look like your living room, essentially. A very, very small version. And we realized that wasn't going to be very conducive to carrying inventory. Like I could only carry one vase of blah, 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 because that would only go in that one spot, or whatever it was. So that wasn't very realistic. So we just really set out to make it an inviting space and to make it as cozy as possible. So I took elements of things that I really liked from living rooms, like built-ins. I really, really love built-ins in a home. And so we built up one of our wheel wells to be a counter height caddy. So basically we made, we like put a lid on it with a hinge. And so then built it up so that it lifted up, and then we can store backstock in there. So above that, we have a kind of a blank wall, and then we flanked it with 2 bookshelves. And then we put molding around the base to give it that built-in feel. So basically, we took elements of what you would find in your living room and brought it into the truck to give it that cozy feel. Also, obviously, having to take into consideration what's going to happen when we're moving and how, what our setup and takedown time is going to be, and, all of those things. I also pulled some elements of outside into the truck, specifically with painting our ceiling. 2 years ago, we went on vacation and we went to Charleston, South Carolina. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but I highly recommend it. It is seriously my favorite city I have ever been to. I probably should live there. And I'm obsessed with Charleston. And it's such a historic town. All of their homes have to be, within the specific area. They're all historic homes. And so they have to be kept to the historic standards. Like they have to use specific paint and, I don't know, there's like all different kinds of rules and regulations. But one of the things I really, really loved was that they all painted the inside or the ceilings of their porches this beautiful color of blue. And they called it Haint Blue, which was supposed to keep the evil spirits that came in from the sea away. And, I don't know if there's much truth to that, but I just thought it was super pretty. And it played in, to our aesthetic of our design. And so I was like, let's just paint the ceiling and then keep the walls white, keep it simple, have our inventory pop. Mm-hmm. But then people do notice the ceiling.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool. Yeah. So, we just try and take little design elements and bring them in.
I think people always forget about the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like even, in the home, it doesn't matter what, but it's amazing like how that kind of changes the mood of a place or a room or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And with a truck, I mean, I feel like it's all about the details because each truck I've been in, it's like it kind of evokes like a certain type of like, I don't know, mood or ambiance.
Yeah,
so you have to get all of the details right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once you guys kind of had the truck like all set out, so this kind of like past spring and summer, how did you guys just plan for getting the word out there? Like, hello world, we're here, we're coming, figuring out like what events, work best for you. Like, how did you do that? And also, I guess this is like a 2-part question. Did you start, like being active on social media long before, your actual launch, just to make sure that, you had this audience that would be ready to come out and support you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned before, we had a different name. And we put that, we had our Facebook page set up. We had our Instagram page, our Twitter. And I'm really, really glad we didn't start on a website because that would have been an ordeal. But, I mean, websiting is hard.
Yeah.
It's like a serious business. Yeah. I mean, we did, like, we tried on social media. We also tried to raise funds with an Indiegogo and we've horribly failed, crashed and burned. Also, I think I maybe didn't feel so comfortable with it. So we didn't really publicize it as much as we probably should have or could have. That's kind of how it started. And that's where our first social media presence came in. So like, if you look backwards in our Instagram and you go like to some of the first posts, it's going to be like, hey, check out our Indiegogo. It was a lot of that. I didn't really have a good grasp of things like SEO at the time. Like I didn't understand that you posting a lot is going to get you seen.
Right.
So we weren't probably posting on social media as much as we probably should have.
No. And that was our first dose of business reality whenever we launched our Indiegogo, and we were like checking it daily and we're like, okay, what's going on? We need to post something, or, we need to help get the word out. But yeah, it's not like an overnight thing to get the word out to everybody. I mean, yeah, it helps that, our friends and our parents, share and repost things for us, but it all takes, going out and getting in everybody's faces, I guess, and talking to people. And I mean, just to give you an example, when we launched, so the build out took us about a month and a half. So we bought the truck in April. It took about a month for all the mechanical work to be finished. So we got the truck back probably the first week of May. Then we decided to put a deadline on ourselves. And if anybody that listens to this podcast and they have a truck and they're building it out and things like that, put a deadline on yourself, because that will make you get your truck done.
Mm-hmm. Set your opening event.
No matter how far along you are or what it may be, but set a deadline on yourself. Make or reach out to somebody to do your grand opening, because that will make you get your truck done. Granted, you might need to do some subtle tweaks after the fact, but you'll be ready to go by that date. And that's pretty much what we did. And, I remember telling my parents that, and because they helped out a lot, and Jen's brother helped out a lot too, building the truck out, and Jen's mother did too. And it's like, okay, everybody, well, not everybody, but my parents were worried. They're like, we don't know if we're going to be able to make that deadline. It's like, we have to.
We have to.
Like, we have no choice.
Set.
We have to. So we put the word out, and, it's like, everybody knows this. If we don't show up or we don't have our truck done, then how do we look? So,
right.
I mean, if I can leave anybody with any piece of advice, it's put a deadline on yourself, because the work will need to get done, but it'll be that much better at the end.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, we made, just like you said, you got to get out there and build relationships. And we actually have a local microbrewery that's very close to our house, and they've only been open for about a year, and we kind of stumbled upon them and became really good friends with them. And we asked them if they could host our grand opening, and they were, more than willing to do that. So that's kind of how that relationship was built. So,
you can't be afraid to talk to people about your business. And I think that's one of the things that I struggled with at first, because one, we're a newer industry, like I mentioned before, like in a lot of places, you could be the only one in your town doing mobile retail. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I struggled with, okay, we're doing something new. Like, nobody's heard of a home decor truck around here. So you have to, if you're not feeling confident in how things are going, you have to exude that anyway. And you can't be afraid to talk about it. You can't be afraid to be your own megaphone. You have to get comfortable talking about your business to people, and you have to be able to promote your business, even if it's not up and running. And so I recommend for that, what I did to build my confidence is I surrounded myself with a group, a networking group, and just, put myself on repeat. I was talking with a lot of people, put my face out there like, hey, we're coming, because you have to figure out how to get beyond your friends and family on Facebook. That's a huge, huge thing. And honestly, that's something that we're still within the first 90 days of opening our business. We're just a little bit over 2 months old, right? So, we're constantly trying to brainstorm about like, okay, how do we get beyond? Like, yes, we have so many likes on Facebook, but we need more exposure because we want to grow this into our careers. I love what I do for my job, but if you have an entrepreneurial spirit in you and you have a fire to start your own business and to be self-sustaining and self-employed, then you're going to try and figure out all the ways to do it. Well, one of the ways that you do that, I feel, is by just making your presence known, getting the word out, getting exposure on your social media, and just really getting beyond your inner circle.
No, I agree. I feel like you guys have dropped a lot of nuggets in the last 15 minutes that people can use.
Sorry if we were rambling.
No. I mean, this is great stuff, because this is what helps people like actually accomplish what they're trying to do and then actually make money from it. Because if you do not set a deadline, then things can take forever, right?
Exactly.
You keep thinking of things and you're like, maybe I need time to do this and maybe I'll do that. But when you say like, I need to do this in 2 months, you start telling people, like you even mentioned, like, joining kind of like this networking group, but now these are people who are going to keep you accountable too, right? They're going to be like, well, how is that going, Jen?
Right.
Where are you at in the process? That really does like help you, make sure that you do what you said you're going to do. But, another thing that you guys mentioned was like posting a lot. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because they're like, oh, well, I don't want to inundate friends, family,
Too
or
bad. Get
my
over
new
it.
followers.
You have to get over
you
that.
got to get over that.
You have to get over that because how many pop-ups do you see on Yahoo daily from whatever previous search you just did? I mean, like, for instance, like I'll have my Yahoo mail pulled up and I get like 30 pop-ups for Nike.com or something like that. It's like, well, they're not afraid to do it, so why should you be?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't realize is like for your business example, for an example, if they love you and kind of the things in your truck, you could post 4 or 5 times a day. They don't care because they love you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
you know,
we've kind of set the tone about that too, about starting to do posts on Instagram with our inventory and things like that. Because I mean, people have been really receptive to not only the truck, but the items that we offer, which is great. So, you know, they're really receptive to the idea of not necessarily shopping online on our website, but more or less, you know, just sending us a direct message on Instagram saying, hey, I like those vases, or hey, I like those wall hangings. How do I get those?
Or stalking our you know, not our destinations, like where we park, you know, which obviously that's what you want people to do. You want people to come out to the truck because you've worked pretty freaking hard on it. And so
exactly.
like put your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Right.
And, you know, lots of time and, you know, and you want people to see that because we have a really cool industry. We have a lot of cool people. We have a lot of really original ideas, and people are so creative in their trucks, and we need to shine. You know, we're an industry just like a brick and mortar retail shop, you know? And so, you know, there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't want people coming into your truck, but also you want people psycho stalking you on your Instagram like that. Not like psycho stalking, but you know what I mean? Like tracking your truck,
right.
You know, following you where you're going and, you know, seeing what the new stuff is and messaging you. And, you know, and that's how you build your business too, is by getting out there and meeting people. You know, we've booked a couple of events in just the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
From people that have come into our truck and we're like, hey, we're doing this event. Like, it would be so cool to have you there. Is that something you would do? And you know, when you're in your first stages of your business, you're like, heck yes, I will be there.
Right.
And so, you know, your social media can be your sounding board, and your truck is what's going to sell you.
I just wanted to touch on something you guys said. You were talking earlier about, or you mentioned it briefly about how like the website, how kind of challenging that could be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wondered if you could kind of elaborate on that and then let the listeners know what you decided on, like what platform you decided on.
We actually decided to go with GoDaddy.com because that's where we set up our email addresses. We actually bought the domain first, and then we got, you know, they have different packages where you can get your email addresses and, you know, you can get whatever add-ons that you want. But as far as the website goes, they seem to be the easiest to use because they already have predetermined templates. And really all you need to do is just add your content and then also add your pictures and whatever else you want to put on there. And there's really no coding involved at all. You just kind of click and drag and it lines everything up for you. It'll tell you, you know, if this is centered or if this is not centered or whatever it may be. But I have to stress, though, whenever you do set up a website, granted, ours is kind of a landing page for our business, but you want it to be as professional as you possibly can make it. So definitely, if you don't have somebody that you know that does professional photography, definitely invest in that because professional photography will speak volumes on your website. It'd be, you know, like the everyday consumer will look at your website and just say, wow, their website looks really good, you know, and, you know, you'll go to some fashion websites that actually, you know, they use real models and things like that. But I mean, of course, we're not going to do that. I mean, it's just me and Jen and our pictures, but it definitely speaks volumes if you do professional photography and use those images on your website, because that will show that you're serious.
Yeah, because I'm looking at your website now, and we'll make sure to include it in the show notes. But
Sure.
You have like these large, beautiful photos. They're clear, they're crisp. It's like it's very inviting, and so that
Thank
really
you.
does like make people want to be like, "Ooh, I want to actually visit this truck."
Right, absolutely.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear. Actually, appreciate it.
Yeah, we actually have a very good relationship with our wedding photographer that we've actually become really good friends with, her and her husband. And she's the one that took those pictures.
Yeah. Todd Studios Photography and Stationery. Facebook that.
Cool. We'll put it in the link.
Yeah.
And then what point of sale system did you guys decide to use?
We use Square.
Yeah, we went with Square. We ended up buying the Square stand from Best Buy, and got one of the we got one of the iPad Airs that we use, and it definitely seems like it's very easy to use. It's very user friendly. Like, you can go in and edit things, take things out. Granted, we haven't accessed it on a regular PC, like a desktop computer, because I've heard that there's a lot more options that you can toggle between on a desktop computer versus an iPad. But basically all we do is, the stand is mounted in our truck, and we charge the iPad, overnight before we go to an event, and we just plug it in and we're ready to go. You don't have to be online either to run a transaction. You can actually be offline to run a transaction. And then, once you get back onto a network, then, I believe what it'll do is it'll send out all the text messages for the customer's receipts if they opt to do that at the point of sale.
So we just have like a few wrap up questions just to help the listeners get to know you guys a little bit better.
Sure.
Do you guys have a favorite podcast, blog, book, or TV show? And if so, what is it?
I just want to plug this.
You go ahead.
I actually listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk stuff.
Oh, Gary V.
Yeah, and I actually got Jen listening to this other podcast. There's a guy who's local to St. Louis who has been in business for about 17 years now. He started a supplement store, and his podcast. I mean, this guy, I don't know how many companies he owns, but he's been in business for like 17 years. He's a local guy, and his podcast is called the MF CEO Project. I don't know if you guys have listened to that.
Andy Frisella.
His name's Andy Frisella, and I mean, if you guys ever get the chance to, I mean, you will be super motivated just by listening to one episode. I mean, he's super authentic.
They're really in your face, though.
I mean, they're in your face, definitely, but I mean, he doesn't cloud it with a lot of fluff. He's very authentic. He prides himself in not being a motivational speaker, but he tells it like it is. I trust what he says just because he's been in business for so long, and the guy's super successful. So I listen to that a lot too. And he does a podcast weekly.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, not to sound like I don't know what, like a brown noser, I guess, but we listened to your podcast a lot when we were in the planning stages, like much, back like August, September. And, before we really started to, on my breaks at work, I would listen to your podcast and just try and figure out what, anything I could pick up from it. So yeah, I mean, for sure. We have listened to your podcast as well.
A lot of resources for sure.
No, that's cool. I mean, and it's like so interesting. I always like to tell guests too, what's, always really cool is like you listen to other guests and kind of picked up tricks, but then somebody is going to listen to this and then you're going to inspire them. And then literally a year from now, we could be interviewing them and they'll say, yeah, we heard,
sure,
so-and-so on the podcast, Jen and Mike on the podcast. So
Yeah.
And how
Pretty
awesome
cool.
would that be?
That, to be honest with you, that would be extremely fulfilling because, it's one of those things like, I'll talk to a perfect stranger about, like what we've done and what we're doing and things like that. And, it's people have that drive inside of them. It's just, letting it out. It's like, okay, well, you have this idea, what are you going to do to, bring it to the public and things like that. It's just more or less nice to, inspire somebody to go out and do maybe the same thing or open a food truck or any kind of business. It's, we're still in our planning stages and we're still learning and things like that. Granted, we're out there doing it, but, if somebody a year from now says, hey, we were listening to the Can I Park Here podcast and, we heard Jen and Mike, honestly, that would be extremely fulfilling if we could, cool. if somebody did that, because I want to inspire more people to do this. If you have
you can't box yourself in and be like, nope, sorry, I'm just doing this.
If you have a business, if you have a business idea, and you are planning on doing a brick and mortar, there's always this option too, to start out.
And then if you guys could have any celebrity, entertainer, model, athlete, anybody you want in the world, dead or alive, visit your mobile boutique, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Really? You're asking me this question. Andy Cohen. He's from St. Louis and I just want to be best friends with him. I do. But I think if I'm speaking on an interior design tip, I don't know. I don't know, but I just think it would be super cool if Andy Cohen came on the truck.
I would have to say either, just to piggyback on that a little bit, but I would have to say, in a business sense, to give us advice as to how we can, build this empire. I would say probably Marcus Lemonis or maybe Gary Vaynerchuk or something like that. Somebody, because we watch The Prophet all the time too. So
oh yeah.
So I would definitely like to kind of pick their brain a little bit just to see, what other avenues we could take this thing.
Right. Cause especially Gary V, right? There's tips and tricks that we're not going to even think of that they've already experimented with that can help take your business to the next level.
Exactly. Yeah.
They'll see what we can't. And what do you guys do on your free time just to wind down and just de-stress when you have free time?
What is that?
I know, right?
Well,
30 seconds of free time, right? As soon as we get done with
this, we're going to go to brunch and we're going to have a couple cocktails.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're awesome. Big food people, So St. Louis has a huge food culture and we have amazing restaurants and I really like to eat. So, so I think, we'd try new restaurants and, just kind of do anything but shop or look at merchandise of any sort. I've actually found that I love the back end of my business. I love the business side of it. I love finding the merchandise and I love all that stuff. But on my off time, I want nothing to do with it. I want to look at my phone as little as I possibly can. I just want to not shop. Anything that doesn't have to do with retail, I'm all about.
But yeah, I feel like you have to have that separation so you can prevent burnout, right? Because if you're just dealing with your business 24/7, then you can start to hate it a little bit, and you don't want to start to hate something that you really love, right?
Right.
So you have to have that separation.
Yeah, and it's hard because you are so passionate about your business. You have to have a passion for your own business. I think so. And so you want to be doing it 24/7 and, you want to be doing it, but you have to unplug. You have to get enough sleep. And your quality of sleep has to be good too, because your brain will keep going when you don't want it to.
Right.
Yeah, it's so important to unplug.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
And then are you guys Android or iPhone? And what's your favorite app?
We are a house divided.
Yeah, we are a house divided.
I know.
It's crazy.
So I am an Android. My favorite app is I use it all the time for our posts. It is called Rana. It's RHONNA, and it's what I use to make our posts about where we're going to be. Like our truck stops and stuff. It just has a lot of really easy to use templates that you can type over, and they're pretty and eye-catching, and I think so. But that's the one I feel like I use the most. And Bitmoji is really fun too.
And then, Mike, we're iPhone too, so we'll forgive Jen this time.
I know. Yeah. We're on the same level here. And, the only reason why I have an iPhone is because, I've been on the same plan for, I don't even know how long. And then, when it came time to upgrade my phone, and it was like 2007 when the first iPhone came out, and, I got the first iPhone and kind of never looked back. So I've been, in that aspect, I've been an Apple user that whole time. So as far as apps go, I really don't have a favorite app that I use. I look at, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the top three. So sometimes Pinterest, but, I use the top three mostly.
What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?
Wow.
Gosh, we're all deep all of a sudden. So if I could not fail, I think this is something that we are planning for. This is something that we're laying the groundwork for. But I think if I knew that I could not fail, I'd do it all at once instead of in stages. I want Indigo Home to be a lifestyle brand. Eventually, I want you to either be able to walk into our truck or our brick and mortar and buy an Indigo Home throw blanket or candle. So I think that I would become an international lifestyle brand.
Nice.
Go big.
Like HGTV or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be super fun too.
That'd be awesome.
Where can the audience find you? Please let us know any social media handles or anything else or any upcoming events you'd like them to know about.
Sure. So all of our social media handles are it's Indigo Home Decor. So Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our website is www.indigohomedecor.com. You can also reach us by email at info@indigohomedecor.com. We are doing some really fun events coming up. If you are in the St. Louis, St. Peter's area, we update our calendars as on the website as we add events. But we're doing a couple of really fun events coming up here. We're going to be at Celebrate St. Peter's in a couple of weeks. We're going to be actually taking it over into Illinois for the first time, which is going to be super fun. Yeah. September 10th, we're going to be at Bad Sister Boutique in Columbia, Illinois from 10 to 4. Really stay tuned to our social media. We post every week where we're going to be and also that day where we're going to be. So social media, honestly, is the most up to date because we're constantly on it. Social media becomes your third job when you have a mobile boutique. So well, probably really any kind of independent business, I feel like social media becomes a really huge part of it. But
it's free advertising.
Yeah. But yeah, so social media is the best place to find the most up-to-date information. And if anybody ever wants to purchase anything from us and they can't make it out to the truck, they can always send us a direct message on Facebook or Instagram. Like we said earlier, we're going to start really ramping up the internet side of it and start really posting our items on social media. So if there's ever something you can't live without, just send us a message and we'll get it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate you all coming on.
No, thank you so much.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Okay. So I just need to highlight just some of the definitely great advice they gave out for people who are just even thinking about doing this or are in the midst of doing it. Okay.
Oh, let me guess which one is going to be first. Check the height of the vehicle to make sure that it's tall enough for people to stand in. Is that it, Nishay?
You know what? I wasn't even going to say that one, but thank you, my short friend. Think of your tall friend as you're buying your boutique. Thank you.
Wow.
7-foot ceilings, people. Okay. Thank you. But the planning, right? They said they might not have had like a fully kind of fleshed out business plan, but just even starting on it and having it in a decent shape, like actually help them to figure out what they should work on next. And I want to, for those of you guys who don't even know how to get started with that, there's actually a popular website out there called B as in boy, bplans.com. And they have like several different templates there that can help you just even start to kind of structure like what you want your business to be. So check that out if you're struggling with like a business plan. Don't get caught up with reading all these books and these videos and this and that and never doing it. Just go to bplans.com. What else did they say? Oh, the set a deadline. That is so key. Because if you do not set a deadline, then it's just not going to happen. I think Estrell mentioned a couple of episodes ago, like even for the podcast, we were like, okay, we're going to be up and running in like a week. And that's what we did. Okay, I had to push Estrell a little bit, but but with the deadline, if we pushed each other to make sure that we got it done, right? If we didn't have that deadline, it would have still been a theory. And who knows if this podcast would have as many episodes as it has today, or if it would have been started, because maybe we would have continued to make excuses.
Possibly.
You know, they partnered, I believe they said, with like a brewery for their launch. And we, talked about launches on a podcast before. When you have a launch, make it big. You know what I'm saying? Like really get people excited about your truck. So figure out what makes sense for you. Professional photographer. Yes. If you don't have time to learn photography or even at least to be decent in it, you don't know any good photographers, like at least have them take like a picture of the truck, a picture of you by the truck, a picture of the inside of the truck, like have like 10 good pictures of your business. But those were, they said a lot of other things, but those are the things that really stuck out to me. Did I miss anything, Estrell?
No, I think that's good. Those were some of the, as you say, key nuggets.
Ah, yes, there's that word, nuggets. I love nuggets. Those were some amazing nuggets. Oh, and the other thing, which Estrell, we both need to get better at, even in like, with our like home decor stuff, is posting more on social media, like planning that out, because really the more you post, the more people see your stuff, the more followers you get, and sometimes the more traffic to your website or to your truck or to whatever. It's kind of a pain in the patootie, but trying to figure out how to do that more and make sure that whatever you're posting reflects your brand. It's tricky, but it's a necessary evil in today's society. That was kind of dramatic, but
it was. So on that note, we should just go ahead and wrap this up. So if you like this episode, please go to iTunes, leave us a review, and give us a pretty good rating. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah. And you can find us everywhere if you just type in the words Find a Fashion Truck. We will just come up, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever. Of course, our handles on Twitter and Instagram is at FFT_official_. But search and Find a Fashion Truck will come right up. Share this episode. Please rate this episode to help us get noticed in iTunes. The more you do that, the more love we get. And it just really helps us out a lot. But thank you for tuning in. We hope you found this to be inspirational. And if you did, give Indigo a little shout out on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks for parking here.